About 30 seconds.
Anybody waiting?
Yeah, we got about 20,
yeah.
16. Open widget. Give me a break. I call BS. We're fine.
Yeah, it should be okay.
Okay.
19 waiting.
Yep. All right. Looks about good. All right. It is 7 o'clock. We're going on here.
It is warming up in Central Illinois and on a beautiful night in Metamora. Clutch Sports Media welcomes you into a Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball matchup. The 3-5 Pekin Dragons have come to town to square off against the 6-3 Metamora Redbirds. You get a look at the seniors displayed in the hallway. The Randall Tepke Gymnasium tonight playing host to a good one. And it is our pleasure to welcome you on indoors. Said it's warming up. It's still a little chilly outside, but we've got a nice, warm, cozy matchup for you. John Camosa and Joey Wright in with you. And, John, when we talk about this matchup, the 3-5 Dragons, those 5 losses, a little deceiving. They've played some good competition. They've beaten some good competition. But a Metamora team on a bit of a slide, 6-3. They've also played up and beaten the very best in the Mid-Illini Conference.
Yeah, Joey, I think this is kind of the game where both teams can find their footing a little bit. And don't let that 3-5 record deceive you. They actually snapped Morton's 64-game Mid-Illini Conference win streak earlier in the season. That was huge for them. And then since then struggled a little bit, but looking to get back on track tonight. And you talked about Metamora, a couple of those losses coming to Morton and Dunlap, 2 of your top teams in the Mid-Illini that are surging again. So should be a good game in store tonight.
Last time we saw the Metamora Redbirds on ClutchSportsIL.com, it was that 3-overtime thriller, a loss to Dunlap in this building a couple of weeks ago. Since then, they bounced back. They beat they beat Dunlap pretty good the next time around, but lost 2 to Morton. And then, of course, Pekin beat Morton a little ways ago. Last time we saw them on our Clutch Sports Media airwaves, they lost to Washington. That was last Thursday. But, John, what strikes me about this matchup, and especially looking at Metamora, but it's the case for Pekin too, such a deep roster. I mean, Metamora, up and down this roster, they've got so many players that can score the ball, so many players that can make a big impact. Pekin has that too, maybe not quite as deep, but Taylor Goss and Gracie Kaiser can jump right off the page at you.
Yeah, Joey, when you mentioned that just now, going back to that 3-overtime game that we saw, late in the game when you needed a big shot, it was spaced pretty well between their roster. I mean, a couple big shots coming from some people that were scoring. So same thing with Pekin. You got Taylor Goss, SIUE commit, but Gracie Kaiser, as you said, playing very well. And it's going to be a well-balanced game tonight. I think could have some players that kind of jump in the scoring column that could surprise you a little bit.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, John, because in that 3-overtime game, of course, Metamora lost that. I believe that was going on 2 weeks ago now, or whenever it was the Saturday game. We were here a little bit ago. You focus on Katie Ramage, Terry, Kayla Pasha as Metamora's leading scorer, but it was Katie Lalamandir who hit the buzzer beater to force double overtime. You've got a lot of players that can step up in the clutch, make those key plays, and head coach Brianna Morrow for Metamora, she's got a lot of players she can trust if this one's close.
She does, and in that game we saw too a little bit of Elena Terry struggled a little bit down the floor, but when she gets in the post, she can be dangerous. The Lewis commit, and really has a nice IQ down there, and when they get her going too in that mix, Metamora could be a very dangerous team, and I think they're wanting to show that tonight.
Elena Terry, the 5'10 senior forward for Metamora, not the only Redbird with collegiate aspirations, one of the better players who has walked these halls for Metamora in recent years, and as John mentioned, she will continue her career at Lewis in 2021-22. But for Pekin, you mentioned Taylor Goss. She is committed to play ball at SIUE. She's 18 points away from her 1,000th point, so if we see her get to that mark tonight, we're told they'll stop the game and have a brief ceremony for that. Excited to see if she can get to that mark. But Gracie Kaiser, only a junior for this Dragons team, John. 18 versus Canton a ways back. Led the team in scoring in all but 2 of their first 6 games. So, you can't focus too much on Goss because you've got Kaiser, you've got Leah McClanahan, Lily Wegeman. Don't be fooled. This Pekin starting 5 adept as well.
Yeah, and right there between Wagenbach, Ridgie, Kaiser and Goss, that's 4 players right there that can score in double figures on any given night. So that bodes well. Some things that some teams in the Mid-Illini don't have in the lower portion. Obviously, you look at Metamora, we just mentioned them, well-rounded as well. So, if it comes down late in the game, and talk about that clutch gene that Taylor Goss has, she hit those 2 late free throws against Morton to snap their streak. So, got some big-name players out here tonight. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
Certainly will. This is a battle of 4th and 5th in the Mid-Illini Conference. Metamora 4th, and Pekin actually tied for 5th with Canton. Going to be a fun one. National anthem is upon us. We will pause for that. Get you back with starters and the game. You're watching Clutch Sports Media's coverage of Mid-Illini Conference basketball. From Metamora Township High School in Metamora, Illinois, Joey Wright and John Camosa and the entire Clutch Sports Media team are proud to welcome you into a Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball matchup. Tonight, the 3-5 Pekin Dragons and the 6-3 Metamora Redbirds. And John, starting lineups being introduced on the floor. We'll get you Pekins right now. It'll be Lily Wegeman, who opened the season with 10 points against Dunlap, number 2 for the Dragons. Leah McClanahan, 5'3" junior guard, number 4 in red this evening. Taylor Goss, 18 points away from career point number 1,000, is 25 in red. She's joined by 30 Gracie Kaiser, who scored in double figures in all but 4 of Pekin's first 6 games. Keep an eye on her, and Natalie Riggy, key in the Morton win with 18 points that night. She is 42 for the Dragons. They are coached by Brett McGinnis. And Metamora being introduced on the floor right now. We'll get you their starting lineup. Little hint, it's the same as it has been in their opening 9 games this season. Grace Tira, number 11 for the Redbirds, a 5'5" senior guard. Katie Lalamandir is a 5'5" junior guard as well. The hero against Dunlap, although they ultimately fell. She hit the buzzer beater to force double overtime. Kayla Pasha joins those two in the starting lineup. She is Metamora's leading scorer, 13.9 points per game entering tonight. Katie Ramage, the second leading scorer alongside those 3. She's averaging just over 7, is number 23 for the Redbirds, the sophomore. Elena Terry, the 5'10" senior guard. Forward, I should say, rounds out the lineup. She is committed to play ball at Lewis. She is 34. And John, these 2 starting 5, so deep, so talented. Going to be a fun one tonight.
Certainly is, Joey. And you talk about Metamora not adjusting their starting 5 in the last 9 games, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Everything meshes really well when those 5 are on the floor, and see a lot of unselfish play between both Pekin and Metamora. So I think this is going to be an offensive and defensive battle.
I would agree with that. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Pekin will inbound. Say they've won the opening tip. Of course, no games in the IHSA starting with an opening tip this season. So they will inbound right in front of us. 8 minutes on the board, and we are underway at Randall Tepke Gym. Glad you're with us as Pekin has the first possession of the game. And up top it is Kaiser. And now Goss. Ramage will come out to guard as Pekin looks to swing it around. And over to McClanahan it goes.
Goss likes to get that corner too. Joey, she can shoot it, as can a lot of other girls on this Pekin roster.
It's Wegeman who takes the first shot. She is off the mark, and Metamora will haul in the rebound, and they'll try to push the pace a little bit here, going to Ramage down low. Ramage a force in the low post, as is Terry. Terry couldn't get the putback, and a jump ball called on the rebound. And that'll stay with Pekin. No, pardon me, Metamora. It'll stay with Metamora. So they'll get a chance to continue this first possession.
We talked about Terry. She'll get a lot of rebounds down there. We've seen that all season. She couldn't get the break on that one, but
worked just the same. Now the Redbirds up top, and it is Terry. Terry tries to slash. Instead, she'll kick, and a three on the way, just short. And Goss will haul in the rebound. Mentioned Goss, just 18 points away from her 1,000th career point. We'll be keeping an eye on that for you all night long. Pekin an errant shot out of bounds, and Metamora will take over.
And one thing we've seen early on, Joey, is Pekin likes to push it in transition as well as Metamora too, so it could be a high-scoring game if both these teams get going up-tempo.
I'll call a foul on that, and that will go against Gracie Kaiser. So that's her first and the team's first. And, John, I completely agree. If these offenses can get hot, the score could go up quickly. We have not seen a score just yet. Metamora looks to flip the script. Up top, and it's Lalamandir. Now back to Ramage. Ramage looks for Terry. Terry was cut off. Good defense from Riggy. John, it looks like Metamora wants the three early on.
They do, Joey, and Pekin doing a good job of not allowing that, but you could tell they're, anytime Kayla Pacia touches the ball, they're helping off on her because she can knock those mid-range down, and I think Pekin's defense doing a good job right now limiting their three-point opportunities. You don't want them to get going.
It will be Ramage to inbound, and keep an eye on Terry from the mid-range as well. Terry, of course, the Lewis commit. She's in motion, but the pass will go instead to Ramage. Now a feed down low to Terry. Terry up and in, and Metamora has our first points of the evening. See if Pekin can mount a response.
You like to see she just kind of goes back and forth on that block, but she'll be down there most of the night cleaning up the boards.
Up top to Goss. Goss a three, just short. Pekin the rebound, and it's Wegeman. Wegeman looking for Goss. Goss elected to pass up the three. Can't get it down low. Volleyball match. Rebound Pekin.
A couple tough breaks early on for Goss. Just couldn't get those last two to fall. Like we mentioned, 18 to reach her 1,000-point mark.
That's going to be a fun matchup to watch all evening long is Riggy and Terry. Riggy for Pekin. And Terry did a good job on defense there of cutting her off. Looked like the offense was going to look for her. Instead, it's up top and Wegeman. Now it is back in the hands of Riggy. Terry out on defense.
Talked about, too, going to be a little bit of a defensive battle. 3 minutes in almost, and still having a tough time finding the hole.
Wegeman's shot was blocked. I believe that was Pacia that got a hand on it, and Pacia will run the offense. She'll pop it out to Tira, and Tira off the mark on the three.
Tira's another one. When she gets going, she can be very dangerous from behind the arc. Seen that in that Dunlap game.
Certainly did. Attacking is Kaiser. And Kaiser against Washington last Thursday knocked in 3 3-pointers to start off her scoring night. Had 9 points on those 3 threes. So keep an eye on her from the perimeter. As that'll take us to our first masked timeout of the evening. And a good time to remind you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin on Derby Street in Pekin at sfbutler.com or at 309-347-3115. Tonight's coverage also brought to you by Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Visit UfteringPekin.com today. And another thank you to our sponsors tonight, Uftring and Zach Butler State Farm Insurance. If you're just joining us, the offensive matchup that we expected to see, John, has yet to materialize. 2-0 here. Just 3 minutes and change into this one. The defenses have impressed me, and I know they've impressed you as well.
They have, and just a tough break for both teams right now. The offense, the shots are there. Defense looks really good, like you said, but shots are there. They're just not falling at the moment. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth game, and we'll see them turn it on pretty soon, it seems like.
I would ask you who's controlling the tempo, but I think the tempo has been pretty much the same on both sides. You know, both offenses have had some long, drawn-out possessions, and no one has really been able to get into transition.
I agree. It's back and forth, and neither team wants to let any leeway in.
So Pekin will inbound here out of the timeout. And if you are new to IHSA basketball this year, every game with some mask timeouts built right into the quarters, a media timeout, if you will. Riggy couldn't convert on offense. Terry keys the Metamora offense. And it's Lala Mandir up top, guarded by McClanahan. Leah McClanahan, the shortest player on the floor right now in either starting five, 5'3". It's her listed height. They'll go down low to Terry. Metamora will. Terry off the bottom of the backboard. John, Metamora has looked good on the offensive glass tonight, though, and that will reward them as Ramage drops it in.
They have 3 early rebounds for Elena Terry, and credit to Pekin doing a good job at keeping her under the basket, trying to put up some quick shots, just can't get them to fall, but I think that's the Dragons doing a good job of just keeping her outside. But still, she'll assert her dominance down there if she can get going.
Pekin brought some pressure there, but or Metamora did, pardon me, but Pekin was able to break it. And it is McClanahan getting a screen from Riggy in a little bit of trouble. Off to Wegeman. Now looking for Riggy. Terry again out on defense, keeping an eye on the 5s tonight. It's Goss up top.
Yeah, Ramage doing a good job on Goss. Hasn't really given her a look at the basket too much.
Some great positional matchups. You know, I've zeroed in a lot on Riggy and Terry, but Ramage and Gossa is going to be electric this evening as well. Here's McClanahan, and she's guarded by Lala Mandir. Now it's Goss, and oh, you could tell Taylor Goss wanted the 3, but Ramage said no.
Yep. You could tell it's the story on the other side too, with Metamora looking to pull the trigger, just Pekin not giving him that window.
Now Goss will attack. Goss drives, little contact, no call. They'll play on. Pass was intended for Riggy, but it finds Kaiser instead, out of bounds. And that'll stay home with the Dragons.
Metamora making Pekin work for every bucket. They're having a hard time getting inside right now, but defense looking really good right off the bat.
Alyssa Russell and Brooklyn Marshall in for Metamora. If you'll recall the Dunlap game a couple of weeks ago, those were the first 2 off the bench then as well. They are the first subs for either side tonight. Here's Goss stepping back, and a pass inside. She traveled. Nice idea.
Could tell she thought about it and realized that defender was right up on her. Went for the quick pass. It's illy timed there.
2:22 on the board, and Metamora will inbound. If you're just joining us, it has been a defensive struggle. Metamora has found the scoreboard twice. Pekin still looking to get off the schneid. And up top is Lala Mandir. Lala Mandir can't convert. Rebound Pekin. It's Tess Kasha in for Pekin. Missed that a moment ago, but she's the first off the bench for the Dragons this evening.
And Joey, they had 2 looks early on, just couldn't get him to go.
Steal, and running is Marshall. Marshall fouled on her way up. Or Russell, pardon me. And that'll be on the shot, so free throws coming up. 3rd foul against Pekin. Metamora has not fouled yet. Still been a pretty clean game to this point. And Russell's first free throw does not get the friendly roll. Leah Yanko, one of 4 seniors for Metamora, back in, or in for the first time.
Like you said, Joey, Russell comes off the bench there. First one off the bench, and see, provides a little spark and finally gets him back on the board again.
5-0 lead, still stands at 2 possessions. Ramage the steal, and she is fouled by Kaiser. Not a terrible foul there, John. You know, they were looking inside, Ramage was, before Kaiser picked up the foul. But that'll at least let Pekin get back and get into a set defense, limit the transition opportunity.
Yeah, Pekin did a good job there, but didn't really have a choice. You know, Ramage closed her off a little bit, fell into a foul. But like you said, a ball out of bounds instead of a free throw doesn't hurt you too bad.
Ramage, and now they'll kick it out to Yanko. Under 90 to play, and Russell will attack. She's repelled, and Pekin is going to do their best to force the 3 at this point. Good interior defense right now. It's Marshall to Russell to Ramage. Ramage stepping back. Bank is closed at this time of night, and Pekin will run it with Kasha. Kasha pass back, 3 on the way from Goss, and in, and Pekin has its first points of the night.
See Joey, when she can get some space and separate, that's what Goss can do. You see that right there. Big 3 to get Pekin on the board.
Time winding down, first quarter of play, and Pekin has made it a 2-point game, low scoring first quarter. Lala-Mandir wanted the 3, didn't take it. And now she'll try to call out a new offense. Up top and Ramage. Ramage back to Lala-Mandir and back to Ramage and over to Yanko.
Brooklyn Marshall looking for it down low.
Marshall tries to create space. She was fouled on the floor. That won't result in free throws. That's the 5th foul for Pekin, so we're still a ways out of the bonus. A little ways, albeit, but Russell did a great job, John, of creating some motion and drawing the contact, even if it was on the floor.
Sure did. And talk about those bench players, too, that come in and provide that spark, but also fundamentally sound. You're not missing a beat when that starting 5's not out there.
Similar play from a similar player, Marshall off the bench and going to the free throw line. That foul is on Goss. That's her first. And the first free throw on the way and in from Marshall. Marshall, a 6'1" sophomore forward, has her second at the free throw line. A 2-possession game once more. John, you think Pekin holds for the last shot here?
20 seconds. I think they could play for something good here. Obviously, you want to get the ball in your best player's hands.
Metamora forces the jump ball. That'll stay with Pekin.
But, Joey, if they can get it to her, I think Goss will be looking to take a shot here as the clock winds down in the first, if they can get her open.
On a 1,000-point watch, Goss needs 15, has the lone 3 points for Pekin tonight. 8 and 7 left on the clock. Sammy Dekoff, her pass to Goss, tipped. Goss gets it back, fires off a 3, and it is wide left, as they would say in football. So that will take us to the close of the first quarter with Pekin trailing 7-3. And we'll be right back after a quick word from tonight's sponsor.
The all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue is now at Uftring Nissan with available all-wheel drive combined with 5 specialized drive modes, advanced technology including up to 3 digital displays, and the most standard safety technologies in its class at Uftring Nissan in Peoria.
Back in Metamora, big thanks to Uftring, one of our sponsors tonight. And we'll take this time to thank them and Zach Butler, State Farm Insurance of Pekin, Illinois. Give him a call at 309-347-3115. He's also at sfbutler.com and in Pekin on Derby Street. And Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Visit UfteringPekin.com today. Joey Wright, John Camosa, and the entire Clutch Sports Media team back in with you in Metamora, Illinois. Metamora leading Pekin 7-3 here at the start of the second quarter. And Metamora will inbound. John, it was a relatively slow-paced first quarter compared to what we thought we might have seen before the game.
Certainly was. We saw a mix of some really good defense and then some shots that just wouldn't fall on either end. And both scorers who kind of jump out at you are Kayla Pesha and Taylor Goss for Pekin. Both been a little silent here in the first quarter or as we go to the second, but see if the momentum can pick up for both teams here to start.
Metamora trying to key some of that momentum here in the first possession of the second. It's Ramage and Terry to Tira, and Tira traveled. A little too eager, John, maybe to get that spark.
Try to sell her with a head fake there, just got a little ahead of herself, turns the ball over. Pekin a chance to cut into this lead.
Goss the trigger for this possession. And Goss to Riggy. Riggy's going to try to take it herself. No, last second pass to Kasha, and Kasha blocked by Ramage. Tell you what, John, Katie Ramage can do a lot for you. Second on the team in scoring with just over 7 points per game entering tonight, but showing that she can make an impact on defense.
Yeah, she'll hound you on defense, and we've seen that all season. I think that's where Metamora, if they're not scoring, prides themselves on that defensive end. They certainly haven't let up tonight.
Here's Riggy. Riggy guarded by Terry. And McClanahan for Pekin. Both teams looking to get on the scoreboard for the first time in this quarter. It's Kasha. Kasha back to Goss. Gets a nice screen from Kasha, but they'll switch, and Pesha's right there for Metamora. Now Goss will fire over to Wegeman. And Wegeman foul. That'll be Metamora's first foul. Just over 9 minutes into the game. And that will go against Tyra.
And Joe, you could tell on the scouting report they saw it. Goss is obviously their leading scorer, but if you're Metamora, that's who you want out on her is Katie Ramage, and she's making her try to work to get open for every bucket here and just can't find a look.
Pesha tipped the pass to Kasha. Goss, and nice exchange. Riggy can't quite finish, and a rebound and a foul, and that foul will go against Pekin. So after Metamora picks up its first foul of the game, Pekin notches its 7th, and that will go against Kasha, her first. Despite the 7 fouls for Pekin, John, no one's really in foul trouble quite yet. Natalie Riggy has 2. You figure that's probably okay at this stage. You wouldn't want her to pick up a third. No one else has 2.
Yeah, it's pretty balanced, Joey, and if you start getting into, 3 territory, you don't, gets a little iffy then, but sitting at 2 now is a chance to check out, maybe lay off a little bit.
Rethink it on the bench, maybe talk it over and tone the aggression down. It's Kayla Pesha at the line, got her first. That was good for her first point of the game, and her second falls through just the same. So Pesha, Metamora's leading scorer, is finally on the board tonight. Low scoring game at Randall Tepke Gym. As Pekin looks to find a couple more of those elusive points. And a 3 on the way from Goss. Deep 3 in and out. Goss has Pekin's lone points with a 3 earlier. And a 3 on the way from Metamora. Just off was Tyra. Rebound and taking it up, and in is Pesha. John, I go back to Washington last week on Thursday. Pekin had, I believe they had a quarter. It was the second, if my memory serves correct. Could have been the third, where they only scored 4 points. The defense has been good, but long scoring droughts, they're not quite foreign to this Pekin team this season.
Yeah, it's not uncommon at all, but there's been games where they kind of fall in those droughts but pick themselves out of them. We'll see if that's the story tonight. But
was almost the case there. Wegeman did not get the friendly roll. Pekin's defense has hung in there tonight, though. And despite pretty strong defense there, a better finish from Izzy Vandishrab on an assist from Tyra. Makes it a 10-point game, double digits for the first time tonight. Turnover, Metamora has some momentum. Lala Mandir looking, going up on Riggy, off the mark. Good defense from Riggy. And now McClanahan will slow it down, pops it back to Goss. Goss is 3 on the way and in. And Taylor Goss, a big response. Back to a 7-point game, under 5 in the second.
And Joey, the difference we've seen so far in the second quarter is that Goss is being guarded by a smaller Katie Lalamandir. She's got a little bit of height advantage on her, gives her a chance to maybe shoot the ball over her, more so than Katie Ramage, but she finally buries one from beyond the arc.
Lalamandir on cue, misses the 3, and Pekin 6 points, again coming from 2 threes from Goss. We will tell you more about those after a quick word from Uftring.
Your best used car value is a certified Nissan at Uftring Nissan. Every certified Nissan comes with a 100,000-mile warranty, a 167-point inspection, and 1 year of complimentary maintenance. And this month, get up to a $750 rebate at Uftring Nissan in Peoria.
Tonight's broadcast also brought to you by Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin, Illinois. In Pekin on Derby Street at sfbutler.com, or give them a call at 309-347-3115. And by Uftring Chrysler, Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler, Dodge Jeep Ram. Visit UfteringPekin.com today. Joey Wright and John Camosa in with you. Randall Tepke Gym in Metamora this evening. And John, right before the break, I talked about Taylor Goss's 2 threes. Those are Pekin's lone points tonight, but Pekin hanging in there, and it's really a testament to the Dragons' defense. They have shut down Metamora and a pretty explosive offense very well here in the early going.
Yeah, Pekin doing a good job of making Metamora work for those buckets, and those 13 points didn't come easy either. But I think Pekin, too, on the offensive end, despite those 2 threes from Goss, we've seen a couple of their shots not fall, even though they push it in transition, had some open looks. Just couldn't get them to go, but I think Pekin feels a little bit better now that they got some of those threes down, knowing that they could still get in this game.
And the mask timeout, essentially a free timeout, new to the IHSA this season, of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic. John, that gives them a chance to kind of lock in some of this momentum, formulate a strong game plan for the last 4:39 of Q2.
I agree, Joey, and see what they can do right here out of that timeout.
Pekin up the floor. This is a battle of 4 and 5 in the Mid-Illini. Pekin, and a 3 on the way from Kaiser off the mark. Out of bounds, and that will stay with the Dragons. And Pekin tied for 5th in the Mid-Illini with Canton. We will see Canton later this week in Washington, a solid little Giants team as always.
Got Ramage back in off the bench on Goss, who gave her some fits early on. I think that's a matchup that Brianna Morrow likes best out there on the court tonight.
Goss for the Redbirds, now McClanahan. A game of matchups, as we've talked about all evening. Fun ones to watch. Goss trying to drive. Couldn't quite do that. Terry's on the bench for Metamora. Ramage can't finish there. And the rebound corralled by Cameron Youngquist. She'll look for a 3 and hits it. Back to a 10-point game, and Cameron Youngquist, fresh into the game, makes it a 10-point affair. Big 3. Pekin on the other end.
The nice thing, too, Joey, about playing in that sophomore game, we saw Cameron Youngquist put on quite the display before this game started, so got her reps from behind the three-point line there, and I think she scored in double figures, so it's another young player off the bench that really provides that spark for the Redbirds.
Pekin will make a change. Goss will come out, and Sammy Dekoff will come in. And John, as you well know, you live by the 3, you die by the 3, and both teams have taken a pretty good volume of threes tonight, especially Pekin. They just missed one there on the offensive end.
Yeah, it's definitely not uncommon for either team when they have those looks. Early on, we saw defense step up a little more, but
Lalamandir off the mark. Put back, no dice from Marshall. And we'll see what Pekin elects to do here with Kaiser, a very capable three-point shooter at the perimeter. She'll dish it off to Dekoff. And now McClanahan, nice move. And a foul called. That was a beautiful jab step from McClanahan to get that lane. That'll be Metamora's 3rd foul of the night. And that will go against Youngquist, her 1st.
And Pekin doing a good job of getting inside too and drawing contact his last 2 possessions.
Bit of a delay here. And John, it was Pekin who really came out of the gates fouling. I don't believe Metamora had a foul in the first quarter. Now it's Metamora who seems to be fouling more of late. 3 just in and out from Dekoff, but she gets it back. And Kasha gives off to Kaiser. Kaiser off the glass. And we're back to single digits. Gracie Kaiser says hello.
We talked about Kaiser earlier before the game started, what she can provide for this team, and you see it right there.
Clanahan back to Kaiser. Kaiser stops, tries to pop, can't quite do it. Out of bounds. It will go to the Redbirds. Tyra back in for Metamora. Out comes Youngquist. And Goss will return for Pekin.
And Joey, you talked about too how well balanced this Metamora team is, and Pekin did a really good job on Kayla Tasha, their leading scorer, but certainly hasn't slowed down the Redbirds as they're ahead 8.
It's a fast Redbirds offense. They take a quick 3. Tyra, in and out. Didn't get the bounce. Kaiser corrals the rebound in traffic. So here's Kaiser, and Kaiser has a height advantage on Lala Mandir. She'll try to take it all the way. Can't quite do it. And Metamora will run and gun. Lala Mandir stopping, looking for Marshall. Marshall kicking to Russell. And Russell, the quick 3, too strong. Will we see another 3 from Pekin here? It's Kaiser. And now Wegeman. Wegeman tries to attack, slashes. Easy 2, maybe not quite so easy, and 1.
It's refreshing to get that one to fall. Last 3 have been a little tough. Pekin chance to cut it to 5 here with the free throw.
Yeah, just like that, Pekin has halved the deficit. Stood at 10 a moment ago, 16-5, and they haven't quite halved it yet. But Wegeman has a good chance to do just that. And it was Wegeman that opened the season with 10 points against Dunlap. He's had a bit of a hard time finding double figures since, but still a good option and a very steady point guard for Brent McGinnis in this Dragons program. In is the free throw and a 5-point game. So, John, now the conversation shifts a little bit. Pekin has some momentum. They have had momentum at times tonight, but not consistently. You've got a minute 38 if you're Metamora. They'll start it here. How do you play this? Do you attack or do you slow it down?
I think Metamora is probably going to slow it down just a little bit. They've gotten some opportunities outside to shoot a 3 that was left open. Didn't get them to fall, but we'll see with Pesha back in there now if they try to play for a mid-range or work it down to Terry in the post.
Lala Mandir and McClanahan, the matchup to watch right now. Now that matchup shifts, and it goes around the world, top of the perimeter. Tira to Yanko, and now to the corner, and Lala Mandir. Lala Mandir, as we get under the minute mark, is guarded by McClanahan. Same matchup that started this possession.
Pekin's defense doing a good job right now and not allowing anything inside. Keeping Terry outside the free throw line.
But Metamora goes outside, and how about that from Laura Yanko? And McClanahan had a little trouble with the pass. Pekin will call a timeout. I like that timeout from Brett McGinnis, John, to slow it down a little bit. But how about, just as you said that Pekin's defense was cutting off the interior, Metamora said, we'll go outside, thank you very much, and Leah Yanko dropped it in.
And that's the thing that makes them so dangerous. You know, if the inside shot's not there, or even that mid-range shot, if it's not there, they can get you from 3, but they use that mid-range to their advantage right there. Metamora, really well-balanced team, and Joey, we'll see here if Pekin decides to hold for the last shot just to keep them at bay if they could score, but I don't think you want to miss an opportunity and give Metamora the ball back in the closing seconds.
Because if they were to do that and Metamora capitalized, you could be looking at double figures.
And not a team you want to be trailing to by double figures, especially as good as Metamora's been.
Although to that point, and not to push back on you, but Dunlap entered halftime a couple of weeks ago with a deficit, so not impossible.
Not impossible, you're right.
But I completely agree. I wouldn't want to put myself in that situation, but Dragons will turn it over here, so just like that, Metamora has an opportunity.
Yeah, these games, as we've seen throughout the Mid-Illini Conference this year, can shift in a heartbeat. Both teams looked a little slow to start, but see Metamora pick it up a little bit. See how they can close out this quarter.
Well, they pick up the offense right now. They want something with 10 seconds left. Tyra at the top will take it. Too strong. Rebound Metamora. Back out to Lalamandir. Lalamandir the deep three. No. Pesha the rebound. 2-1. Out of bounds as the clock expires, and the referees say that's how the first half will end. So Metamora had 3 looks there, John. Couldn't capitalize on any of them. And Pekin, I think they'll agree with you. They don't want a trail going into the locker room by double figures. They bow up and get the job done there.
A nice job, too, in that closing minute of that quarter. Lay Yanko off the bench, senior guard. Had that nice mid-range shot, and then an opportunity to have a rebound right there to give Metamora another look. Couldn't get it to fall, but good job all in all for the Redbirds.
They enter the locker room with a 19-11 lead. And that is where we leave it at halftime, but not before a word for tonight's sponsor, Zach Butler, State Farm in Pekin, Illinois. 309-347-3115. Zach Butler for all of your insurance needs. sfbutler.com. And Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. In North Pekin, from Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Visit UfteringPekin.com today. Glad to have our sponsors on board, Zach Butler State Farm and Uftring tonight, helping to support our coverage of high school sports. And a good one in the Mid-Illini Conference tonight. Joey Wright and John Camosa, the entire Clutch Sports Media team, glad to be with you. We will take a quick break for halftime. Don't flip the browser. We'll be back in a little bit. Metamora ahead of Pekin, 19-11 on ClutchSportsIL.com. Clutch Sports Media back on the scene. Randall Tepke Gym in Metamora tonight playing host to a Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball battle. Metamora 19, Pekin 11 at halftime. Joey Wright and John Camosa back in with you. Larry Larson at the controls of our computer. John Michael is on our camera. Josh Schwab running social media for us. And look who just strolled in the door. WMBD's Kurt Pegler is here. The gang's all here, John. It's a party in Metamora.
You see Kurt Pegler at a lot of games, and just like us, he's working night in and night out.
That's right.
Great guy over there at WMBD, Kurt Pegler.
Absolutely. Back underway in the third quarter, just out of the half. Pekin trying to cut into a 7-point deficit, make that an 8-point deficit here. First possession, McClanahan, shortest player on the floor, off to Riggy for Pekin, and Natalie Riggy, guarded by Alana Terry. Now back to McClanahan.
Goss trying to work around Ramage again, which he's had trouble in these last two quarters, trying to find an opening. See if Pekin can get something started here to open the third quarter.
Riggy guarded by Ramage. And a kick back to McClanahan. McClanahan to Riggy. The deep jumper falls short. That gives Pekin the chance to run it. They'll do just that, and dropping it in is Kayla Pasha. Kayla Pasha started a little slow, only has 4 points to this point. And John, the larger story in the first half was both these teams kind of containing the other's leading scorers.
Certainly Joey and Brett McGinnis not too happy about that turnover, giving Metamora a chance to extend this lead even more, but we touched on how they like to work the ball in transition when they can, and how about that play just now that we saw from Ramage to Pasha. Nice transition bucket.
Always look ahead, just like driving, and driving in is Lala Mandir. And Lala Mandir makes it a 12-point game. That's Metamora's largest lead of the evening.
Something, too, when you're playing Metamora is protecting that ball, and just now we saw turnovers lead to points.
Kaiser a three. She drops it in, back to single digits, and that's what Gracie Kaiser brings to the table. Mentioned that she hit 3 first-half threes against Washington on Thursday. And a big answer there, John Camosa.
I agree, and we saw a lot of defense now, but both teams are converting on the offensive end. Could see a higher scoring third quarter if both teams can get it going.
It's the high-scoring game we thought we would see, just 2 quarters late. Foul there, the first of the half. It's against Metamora and Brooklyn Marshall. And Pekin, just like that, John, after a hot start for Metamora out of the gates in the third, Pekin has a chance to build some momentum.
I agree, Joey, and found Kaiser in the corner there, probably trying to find somebody open again. If not under the basket, around the wing. Not giving him too much room there with Terry down low and Pasha cutting off the lane.
3 on the way from McClanahan. Almost had it, but as they say, that only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and almost a nice find and ultimately a find. But a turnover for Metamora. Pasha couldn't corral it. So here's Pekin and Goss. We don't think Goss will get to 1,000 points tonight. Still could do it, needs 12, but it's Kaiser taking this shot and converting, and Gracie Kaiser. And the Pekin Dragons putting on a nice show from beyond the arc in Q3.
Yeah, if you're containing Goss, you can't be too lenient on Kaiser because she just hit back-to-back threes there, and if Pekin can get her going, could quickly take the lead if they could come back here.
It's like whack-a-mole, knock one down, some others pop up, and a jump ball, hands go up in the air, that arrow favors Metamora. Third jump ball we've seen tonight, if my count's correct, and that'll take us to a mass timeout, the first of the third quarter. And a good time to remind you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Visit UfteringPekin.com today. And by Zach Butler, State Farm in Pekin, Illinois, on Derby Street in Pekin, at sfbutler.com or 309-347-3115. Zach Butler, State Farm agent in Pekin for all your insurance needs. Glad to have Zach Butler aboard tonight, billboard form and on our scorebug. And We'll also take this time to remind you that tomorrow night we're back in Washington for a boys basketball matchup. Dunlap and Washington going at it. We saw those two girls programs play at Torrey Gym last night. That was a good one. 5-point win for Dunlap. Washington, a 24-point winner against the Eagles on the boys' side last night. So we'll see how that plays out. Panthers and Eagles tipping off at 7 o'clock. Join us, ClutchSportsIL.com.
That'll be a good one to tune into if you're watching at home. Washington boys has a very good team this year.
But Corky Card, head coach for Dunlap, he knows how to coach a team that'll keep them close. So
he does.
That'll be a fun one to watch. You and I should have the call of that one. 7 o'clock, ClutchSportsIL.com. Back underway in the third quarter here, and Metamora searching for a little momentum. Pekin has gained some from beyond the arc. There is a shot, and a nice one at that from Katie Ramage.
First time we've seen Ramage pull up from mid-range tonight. Knocks it down. Smooth stroke there.
3 on the way, and an answer from Goss. Not quite, just a little bit short. A smooth stroke indeed on that last shot from Ramage. Physical play out of bounds. Pekin will maintain. Looked good the whole way through.
Certainly did, and one thing that kind of jumps out at you too with Ramage and Brooklyn Marshall and all these other players that we've seen tonight is they look like they're seniors out there and how they play and the leadership, but still got a couple years under their belt.
They certainly do. 2 teams, 2 programs with young futures and bright futures on both sides. Lalamandir, a 3 and in. Katie Lalamandir knows her way around the 3, was the hero in the first overtime against Dunlap a couple of days ago. Makes it an 11-point game. Pekin nearly got the steal instead. Kaiser gets open at the top. Kaiser will go to work on Russell. Now back to Goss. And Goss tries to attack. Didn't have anything, but Wegeman might. Nope. She'll go right back behind her to Kasha. And Pekin's still looking here. It's McClanahan. McClanahan and Lalamandir are going to tango. Kasha. And Kasha was defended, as you were about to say, John. Brooklyn Marshall was right there. Open 3 from Wegeman. In, out, and back in. And Wegeman has a big answer.
Gets a friendly roll there. Pekin cuts it to 8.
Now it's Russell for Metamora. Pekin has, we talked about it in the first half. You live by the 3, you die by the 3. They weren't exactly living large in that first half, but they've come alive in half number 2.
They're doing a good job, too. We talk so much about Goss, and Ramage doing a really good job tonight of containing her, and Pekin's had to look for other scores.
Metamora has had to do the same. Peisha off the mark that time.
They have, and they both stepped up.
Oh, and there's a steal from Peisha. Makes up for it on the defensive end. Redbirds will run it. Peisha over Goss. Nice shot from Peisha.
I think we jinxed it, Joey.
Yeah.
She scores, gets a steal, and nice transition bucket for Peisha.
With apologies to Pekin fans watching. Kayla Peisha tough to shut down. Whistle and a foul away from the ball. Could be a costly turnover there for the Dragons. See how it all plays out. That's the first foul for either side in this second half. And it goes, pardon me, against McClanahan. McClanahan's second personal.
That's one thing you'd want to try to limit against this Metamora team is turning the ball over. They can respond on you quick.
Katie Ramage, charge. Pekin wanted that call the whole way through. They got it. Pretty easy call to make. And what are you drawing up if you're Brett McGinnis here for Pekin? It's a game of runs, as we say. Both teams have shared the momentum in the third quarter. Do you go back to the perimeter, or maybe do you try to catch them off guard and attack?
Well, Joey, as we've seen in this game, doing a good job of working the ball around, but with no shot clock, I think you just got to kind of pass it around until you can get a look, because Metamora is not allowing too much in the lane as well as outside.
Goss tried the quick shot there after a couple of passes. hits the floor, but Metamora will run it. Lalamandir, nice pass, nice finish from Pesha. It was a nice feed from Lalamandir that set that up. High pass to Goss, she'll bring it in.
Pesha starting to get going here in the third.
Open Riggy down low, and Natalie Riggy converts. That may have been what Pekin needed to stop the bleeding a little bit. And a couple of nice passes down low for Metamora tonight, John. They are so adept at making that extra pass.
You certainly are, Joey, and seen that quite a bit. And I think if you're Pekin here, hoping to force a stop, and
well, I couldn't quite get the stop.
Said that too early as Brooklyn Marshall converts, but be crucial for them to score here now.
Marshall now with 4 points. Does Pekin have an answer? Kaiser drives in. Ramage hit the floor, a little slow to get up. And she does get up, but slowly. We'll keep an eye on that. Yanko will come in as Ramage limps off towards the bench. Should certainly hope she's okay. Under her own power, and she'll have a seat on the bench.
Like you said, got up on her own strength and walked off, but you could tell she's in a little bit of pain over there. She hit the deck, might have hit her knee.
It has, we focused a lot on the perimeter scoring and kind of the finesse that we've seen in the third quarter, but it has been a physical game. We've seen, players hitting the deck and going after loose balls. It's what we saw there from Ramage, just going after it, trying to make a play, unfortunately. Led to a bit of a stinger. Certainly hope that it is okay. Lalamandir and the Redbirds offense trying to respond. John, would you hold for the final shot here?
If you're Metamora, you don't have too much to lose, having a nice lead, but I think they're going to try to work something inside.
Yanko, three coming, too strong, out of bounds. Pekin touched it last, I think. No, they'll say it's off of Metamora. But I think Goss thought she touched it last.
Now if you're looking for the last shot, Pekin definitely going to play these last 15 seconds down and hope to get something on the board here, but want to make sure you don't allow a turnover in that full court pressure that Metamora brings to the table.
3 would make it a single-digit game. Obviously, a 2 would make it 10 even. Pekin looking, 7 and 6. Down low to Natalie Riggy. Riggy looking for Wegeman, turned over. Metamora will run it. At the buzzer is Russell. Russell hit the square on the backboard, as they teach you, but had a little too much on it. And that is how the third quarter will end, 34-22, Metamora. We will be back after a quick word from Uftring.
The all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue is now at Uftring Nissan with available all-wheel drive combined with 5 specialized drive modes, advanced technology including up to 3 digital displays, and the most standard safety technologies in its class at Uftring Nissan in Peoria.
Uftring Nissan on Allen Road in Peoria. Tonight's coverage also brought to you by State Farm. Zach Butler, agent in Pekin, Illinois. Give him a call at 309-347-3115 or sfbutler.com. Zach Butler for all your insurance needs. And by Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Visit UfteringPekin.com. Back in for the fourth quarter, Joey Wright, John Camosa, and the entire Clutch Sports Media team. We've seen 3 quarters of a 34-22 lead for Metamora. John, Pekin had some momentum in that third quarter, but Metamora was ultimately able to pull away late. And still, obviously, a lot of time left, but Metamora looking good with 8 minutes of regulation to play.
That's kind of the story with Metamora. It seems like anytime you can get a little bit of footing on them and try to cut back into the lead, they respond on you with not 1 bucket, but 2 buckets usually. Just a dangerous team, and they're showing that in these last 2 quarters that we've seen.
Out of bounds, Terry touched it last for Metamora. So Pekin will maintain possession, and a storyline we'll update you on here early in the fourth. We were told prior to the game that Taylor Goss, 18 points away from career point number 1,000. Back to that in a second as Gracie Kaiser hits a big 3 to make it a 9-point game. She has 11 points to lead Pekin. But the short of it is, John, Kaiser or Goss rather, still 12 points away from 1,000. Not sure if she'll get there tonight.
Yeah, she's hit 2 early threes when there was that mismatch, when Ramage wasn't out on her, and since then, they're really doing a good job of trying to contain her, but Pekin's still going through her, trying to work. She's just had to give up the ball a couple times. They're helping off.
Lana Terry for Metamora looking for Pesha. Pesha tipped it back to Youngquist. And now it's Russell, who has played good minutes for the Redbirds tonight. Only has a point, but has been a part of a lot of plays off the bench. Now Terry over Riggy. Terry has a lane. Terry has a basket.
Really nice move there from Terry to create her own shot. Gets by the defender and lays it in. The Lewis College commit.
Back to double digits and exactly where I was going to go, showing why. She's a Division II basketball commit. Gonna play for the Flyers next season. Here's Goss. Goss guarded by Yanko. Nice moves from Goss. Goss, the SIU commit, and the dish to Kaiser. Gracie Kaiser, as Brett McGinnis will take a quick 30-second timeout. No relation to Metamora's Ethan Kaiser. High-flying sophomore for the Metamora Redbirds boys team. We've seen him a couple of times this season, and he can certainly get up. Kaiser can get up from beyond the arc. He's hit some big shots this evening.
Certainly has, and they needed their second leading scorer to carry him, and Pekin's still not out of this game. Just hoping for a bucket here quick. Got back into this lead a little bit, but if you're Metamora, you got to like where you're at right now.
I would think so too, John. And ultimately, would you say that I think if Metamora can halt the Pekin perimeter attack the rest of the way, they're probably going to be in pretty good shape. Pekin's gotten a couple of looks down low, but really it's, that deep 2 and 3 range. That's where they've really been successful.
Certainly have, Joey, and Goss can't get that one to fall, but back to your point, Metamora, as we've seen Pekin had to really work hard for some of their shots. Metamora really doing a good job of working the ball around, and their scoring hasn't come with too much challenge.
And we'll see they work the ball around here to start this possession. Lala Mandir. Lala Mandir guarded by McClanahan. And Metamora with Terry. Terry, nice move. Redbirds offense in no hurry here. Russell maybe wanted the 3 up top, but Goss did a nice job of closing in. And Terry will turn around, stops and pops, drops it in. And a lot of Terry, a nice basket there.
Terry showing off that mid-range game as well.
Second consecutive Redbirds possession that has ended in a nice basket from Terry. Riggy tries to respond for Pekin, can't do it, but Kaiser the rebound. Tries to back down Lala Mandir, can't do it, and the Redbirds run it. Here's Terry again.
You could see Terry too on that possession. Did a good job of helping off and helping force a missed bucket. Grabbing the rebound as well.
Lala Mandir, and Terry has had a great fourth quarter. Gets the ball down low again and pops it out to Yanko. No 3 there. Lala Mandir and McClanahan going at it up top. And Terry. Go ahead, John.
I said we talked about her early in the game, and slow start from Terry, but definitely showing why she's that Division II commit right now, stepping in on both the offensive and defensive end.
As I said, has had a big role last couple of minutes, and in this fourth quarter for Metamora, trying to attack is Wegeman. Wegeman back to Kaiser. Kaiser has an open 3 and has a huge basket, makes it a 10-point game. Still over half of the quarter to play. So Metamora not out of the woods yet. We'll see how the Redbirds offense reacts. McClanahan will pick up a quick foul. That'll take us to our masked timeout. So we will break that down after a quick word from Uftring.
Your best used car value is a certified Nissan at Uftring Nissan. Every certified Nissan comes with a 100,000-mile warranty, a 167-point inspection, and 1 year of complimentary maintenance. And this month, get up to a $750 rebate at Uftring Nissan in Peoria.
Tonight's coverage also brought to you by Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin, Illinois. Call 309-347-3115. Zach Butler for all your insurance needs. Also at sfbutler.com, and by Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And John, we were talking before that break. What were we talking about before that break?
Talked about Pekin and doing a good job to staying in it, but I think Kaiser definitely has kept Pekin in this game. I mean, you got to think with Goss having her looks taken away, that Kaiser's done a good job of stepping out and shooting those threes. And you talked about it earlier, live by the three, die by the three. But I think you'll see Pekin shoot a lot more in these last 4 minutes just to try to cut into this 10-point lead, because not a deficit you want to be in here on the road.
Every comeback we've seen on ClutchSportsIL.com this season has been keyed by late defense. Saw that in Washington last week, Washington-Morton boys basketball. Saw Dunlap use defense to draw back to within Metamora a couple of weeks ago. Metamora travels there, an unforced error. So, John, this is where things get a little interesting.
Yeah, and you feed off some of those mistakes that are made, but Pekin a chance to cut it to 8. See if they can down the floor and convert, but Metamora's defense still making them work for it. They haven't came easy.
They certainly haven't. Time is going to start working against Pekin with no shot clock. Sooner rather than later, we'll see. They find Wegeman, and Wegeman goes back to Kaiser. Kaiser on Lalamandir. Brings it back, looks for Riggy. Riggy the pass, she lost it, and Tyra comes away with it for Metamora. This is where we say, John, with no shot clock, gets a little more difficult for the Dragons. They almost get a steal. They almost get another one. And Metamora will call a timeout. Probably a good timeout from Brianna Morrow.
I agree, and you can see as Pekin turned the ball over there, they didn't let up on the defensive end and almost forced a turnover of their own. Like you said, a good timeout for Brianna Morrow just to go through this timeout and adjust a little bit, but you're still up 10. Not to panic at all.
Pekin has time. They just have to use it right. You know, we'll look at the foul situation because that could very well become a storyline sooner rather than later. 2 fouls for Pekin. Metamora has only fouled once this half. It has quietly been a very clean half in the foul department. Only 3 combined to this point. Take a look at our upcoming schedules real quick. Pekin with East Peoria and Limestone on deck. We're not quite sure based on what was out there if those are their next games, but East Peoria and Limestone late in the season, 2 Mid-Illini teams you probably want to catch at that point. And then Pekin, of course, for Metamora on deck. These 2 teams will rematch on Thursday, and then Washington coming up for the Redbirds, one of which will be on ClutchSportsIL.com. I believe that'll be on Saturday afternoon. We'll be in Washington for that one, so join us then. Out of the timeout, and Lalamandir. Now, when John, does Pekin start to foul? Well, right there.
There's a foul right there, but yeah, without this shot clock and working the ball around, if Metamora chooses to slow this pace down, I think anything near the 2-minute mark or even sooner, but see if Metamora plays keep away or they're going to keep going after the basket, up 10.
Just north of 3 minutes to play. And Pesha goes to work down low on McClanahan and got it. 12-point game. Kayla Pesha now with 12 points. One more basket would get her past her season average of 13.9. Started a little slow in the scoring column, but has quietly had a great night. Now down low is Kasha. Kasha on Pesha. Doesn't roll in. Rolls out of bounds. Last touch by the Redbirds. So Pekin will maintain, and they'll have a chance to get a shot off.
Looking for Goss deep there.
Into Goss. Gets a nice screen from Kasha. Goss will go to work. Takes it herself. The rims have not been kind to the Dragons tonight, though, and Metamora will escape with the rebound.
I agree, Joey, and when they do break that defensive pressure, they're getting good looks inside. The ball's just not falling. We've seen a lot of those tonight. all around the rim or right off the front of the rim, and could be a frustrating thing for a coach, but you know, out of your control, and Metamora doing a good job of responding off those misses.
Platoon swap here for Pekin. They'll bring in a new 5. That's probably what that foul was intended to achieve. And that 5 is Sammy Deckoff, Ainsley Hall, and Carly Williams, along with Laura Gilmore and Dalian McFarland is also in for Pekin. First time we've called a lot of those names tonight. Metamora made a couple of substitutions as well. Lane Jackson is in. Metamora goes down low, and that was Jackson who lost the shot going up, so it goes to Pekin.
Yeah, Joey and Brett McGinnis deciding to go to the bench. Figuring that Metamora's got the driver's seat right now and play some of those underclassmen in these last 2 minutes.
Get the younger players some experience indeed. Recap the rest of those Metamora substitutions in just a second. Off the mark, Jackson the rebound. Vandishrab came back in. We called Izzy Vandishrab's name earlier, and Ella Stivers is also in. Vandishrab a freshman and Stivers a sophomore. And cleaning it up is Izzy Vandishrab, the 5'10 freshman guard. I believe we saw her in the sophomore game, and she had a nice performance.
Scored double figures in that sophomore game, and it's another good player that Metamora will have as a bright spot in the future.
Pekin the rebound and taking the shot that time. Couldn't quite convert was Deckoff. Of the 5 on the floor for Pekin, Deckoff has played the most this evening. Junior guard for the Dragons. And Metamora will be content to run down the clock as best they can. As I say that, they do the opposite, and Vandishrab has 4 tonight. 6 tonight, she scored earlier.
Joey, as the clock winds down, I think it's safe to say that Metamora will improve to 6-3 on the year, which definitely speaks volumes of your team in a Mid-Illini conference like this season with so many good teams.
Certainly looks that they will, and Metamora entering this one 3rd in the Mid-Illini conference. I believe earlier I said they were 4th, but they ought to be 4th based on wins. They have 6, as does Dunlap and Morton, 3 losses behind Dunlap's 1 and Morton's 2. And depending on Canton's next result, we'll see if Pekin can stay tied for the 5th spot. Both those teams 3-5 in Mid-Illini play. Pekin has the ball in hand. We are just about 10 seconds away from a Metamora victory. Shot on the way from the Dragons, off the mark and off the hand of Carly Williams. Metamora will run out the clock and win it 44-28. Vandishrab the ball in hand as it goes final.
Nice showing from the Redbirds tonight, not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end as well. Talked about Taylor Goss, looking to come into this game to get her 1,000th point, but Metamora's defense holding her to under double figures, and that speaks volumes for Brianna Morrow and her team.
And how about the job Metamora did closing this one out? It was no walk in the park. Pekin, it was a 6-point game in the 3rd quarter. It was a 10-point game with about 4 to play. Pekin just, I don't want to say they didn't have enough left in the tank, because I think Metamora just walled up and kind of found enough to get the job done. Not so much a poor performance from the Dragons so much as it was a good one from the Redbirds.
Certainly was, and we saw some bright spots out of Pekin. Kaiser knocking down some threes, and the defensive lacked a little bit there late in the game and between the 2nd quarter, but Pekin had some shots that were there that just couldn't fall, and I think it would have been a lot closer if that rim wasn't sealed for him tonight.
Certainly could have. Tomorrow night on ClutchSportsIL.com, Dunlap at Washington. Boys basketball action coming at you at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on our YouTube channel and on ClutchSportsIL.com. And a quick rundown of the Mid-Illini standings. As they entered tonight, Dunlap was 6-1, Morton was 6-2. 2 of those wins coming against Metamora. Washington 5-2, Metamora 6-3. They'll improve to 7-3 tonight. Canton and Pekin were tied at 3 and 5. Limestone was 2 and 6. East Peoria was 1 and 7. Again tomorrow, Dunlap and Washington. Join us for that one. And that's where we'll leave it for you tonight in Metamora. Metamora 44, Pekin 28 for Larry Larson, John Michael, Josh Schwam, and my partner John Camosa. I am Joey Wright. This has been a presentation of Clutch Sports Media. Final score, Metamora 44, Pekin 28.